So yeah, I think a lot of people simply can't make ends meet in our economy anymore, and it's a lot more people than maybe we thought before, but immigration is still going full guns for the reasons I suggested, but I think it's starting to wear thin. Look at some of these headlines just from today. Youth unemployment is now at levels seen during a recession, report shows. Well, like I say, we have been in a recession for a few years now. Here's the StatsCan report, just one of them. 7.1% unemployment, but that hides how bad it is. That's unemployment. So 7.1% of people looking for work cannot find it. But look at this stat. 0.3% of people, that's the that's the employment number. That's the labor force. So 0.3% of people have just stopped even trying in the last month. So the 7.1% number is just those who are still trying to find work. But that would actually be 7.4% if we were still counting the people just given up. Isn't that funny? It's not funny at all. And why would you and how could you know this when a million foreigners are being brought in specifically to undermine you and undercut you? That is expressly the purpose of temporary foreign workers. That just is. That's, the more candid employers say, yeah, we want low wages. Duh. It's a zero-sum game in some ways. Every dollar paid to an employee is a dollar not left for the business. I saw some screeching pundit the other day saying it's racist not to want cheap foreign workers, an underclass of indentured servants here. No, I actually think it's the opposite. It's racist to have a third world underclass of exploited workers, but putting race aside, it's cruel to young Canadians of all racial backgrounds too. Here's that racist calling everyone else racist.
I'm going to be quite frank and honest. We are the Conservative Party, and Pierre Poilievre and MP Rempel are treading a very dangerous line of what I'm going to call a dog whistle of racism. Because if you want to have a conversation about the fact that we have an issue with immigration, we do. Not because they're immigrants and they're coming in and taking away. It's because our society and our system hasn't kept up. We don't have enough housing. We don't have enough resource put in place to help everybody. So let's have that conversation. But to say it's foreign workers that are taking away jobs from Canadians and the solution is youth, to me, is simplistic.
Yeah, no, and I don't think that's going to work anymore. I think that has sort of run its course, and there's not a lot of patience for the government calling people racist anymore after 10 years of Trudeau doing it. I mean, it undercuts you when even a man of the insane left, BC Premier David Eby, says we have to stop bringing in our own replacement workers. Here's the headline today. Temporary foreign worker program should be reformed significantly or canceled. Eby, I'll read a bit. The temporary foreign worker program is not working. It should be canceled or significantly reformed. Eby said, here in British Columbia, we see an unacceptably high level of unemployment among young people, which has been linked both to the international student visa program as well as the temporary foreign worker program. So it's not one or the other, it's both. There's about, a million foreign students in Canada, and most of them go to bogus diploma mills. They're just here to work and to stay indefinitely. They've never been deported. They never will be. But oligarchs and international corporations like all that, and of course these diploma mills like all that. It's a supply and demand question. You bring in a million foreign workers desperate for jobs, and I'd say a million, because that's students and temporary foreign workers, and they're competing with, a million Canadian youth desperate for summer jobs and other jobs, and you've got a race to the bottom. That is good news for capitalists. Supply and demand, the price that capital has to pay for labor goes down. I know I'm sounding like a commie, but this is not capitalism the way that it is. It is not capitalism to bring in the world's poorest people to level down our own economy. That's some sort of weird arbitrage going on that disrespects the whole notion of a country, a sovereign country. I can see why an oligarch with 3 passports like Mark Carney likes it, but I think a revolt is brewing. Mark Carney's reheated Trudeau minister, François-Philippe Champagne, the guy who somehow thought it was a good idea to get a personal mortgage from a bank owned by the Communist Party of China, that guy. Champagne says the real answer is, get this, to invent a new economy. Canada must reinvent economy like it did in 1945, finance minister says. I often make an analogy between 2025 and 1945. In 1945, Canada reinvented itself. And I think this is one of those moments, Champagne said, referring to the post-war industrial and construction boom in Canada. It's a moment when we have to reinvent the Canadian economy, Champagne said, speaking to reporters at the Liberal cabinet retreat. Let me guess. He's going to use the phrase AI, isn't he? I bet you he is. Oh, yes, he does. Quote, we have done it before. Look at 1945. Canada turned completely to be this great industrial nation. We're going to build on that. We're going to look at new technologies such as AI, he said. Yeah, that's gonna give us 1 million new jobs. You know, these people can't even run their own slice of the economy properly. Massive debt, massive taxes, massive spending. I'm talking about the public sector, and all without the excuse of COVID now. These are the people, federal civil servants, who still aren't coming back to the office to work in the main, but they're going to invent a new economy for everyone else in the country. I guess so. I mean, they've blown themselves up with the real economy, namely us selling things of value to the world, including to the U.S. First, I gambled on electric vehicle batteries. I don't know how many tens of billions of dollars they spent on that. They really think AI is going to do, just keep saying AI over and over again. But the rest of the world is, you know, it's sort of mean what people are saying about Canada these days, and I'm not rejoicing in it, but it's a little more honest than our own internal critique. Here is Howard Lutnick, the U.S. Commerce Secretary, talking about how bad Mark Carney is as a negotiator.
And Prime Minister Modi seemed to indicate a coalescing of the BRICS. Do you see anywhere in the next month, 2 months, any type of deal or backing down to a lower rate with India?
I would expect, like you saw it in Canada, right? Carney got elected with this term elbows up, meaning let's fight with America. They put on retaliatory tariffs. They were all bravado. And what happened? Their GDP negative 1.6%, unemployment rocketing towards 8%. And what did Carney just do? He just finally dropped his retaliatory tariffs. So I think what happens is it's all bravado because you think it feels good to fight with the biggest client in the world. But eventually, your businesses are going to say, you've got to stop this and go make your deal with America. So I think, yes, in a month or 2 months, I think India is going to be at the table and they're going to say they're sorry and they're going to try to make a deal with Donald Trump. And it will be on Donald Trump's desk how he wants to deal with Modi. And we leave that to him. That's why he's the president.
Yeah, it's true. Elbows up didn't really work, but neither did this rocket surgeon's ideas.
When thinking of what we've gone through the summer, for my part, I've traveled a lot the country, meeting with different workers and different industries, some affected by the tariffs, others also that are much more in sectors that are going through a lot of growth. And also I went 2 times to Europe, Sweden, Finland, and afterwards in Germany. And what our government is really focused right now is obviously on the economy. So we need to protect jobs and we need to create some at the same time. And we're doing that through 3 different ways. The first one obviously is defense, because we're increasing our investments in defense. And while we're doing that for our strong, brave Canadian men and women serving our armed forces, at the same time we're doing it to create jobs. And that's why we're working on a defense industrial strategy and want to be using procurement to be able to create jobs in our country. The other thing that we're working on is obviously to be closer to Europe and to closer to certain countries in Asia, because we know we're too dependent on the U.S. when it comes to trade, and that is clearly a focus of what we're doing as a government.
Yeah, about that, Canada's trade diversification push goes into reverse. Let me read you a story from the Globe and Mail. For all the talk in Canada about the need for trade diversification, exports to non-U.S. markets declined for the 2nd month in a row in July, a stark reminder that the push to reduce the country's exposure to its largest yet unreliable trading partner will be a long process. Exports to countries other than the U.S. fell 8.6% in July from the month before, after a 4.2% drop in June, according to Statistics Canada. As a result, non-U.S. exports as a share of total Canadian shipments to the world dropped back to where they were in October before the election of President Trump. In fact, really the only story about diversification in this piece was about the Trans Mountain Pipeline. That was this grotesque white elephant. That pipeline was first proposed by a private company called Kinder Morgan, American company, that raised all the money themselves and that was working away on a budget of about $6 billion. They said, oh, we'll do it. Yeah, $6 billion ought to do it. Until Trudeau killed the deal by changing the environmental rules. And so they just absolutely broke all the rules with Kinder Morgan, and Kinder Morgan was about to sue Canada for probably $10 billion until Trudeau preempted them and just offered them billions and billions and billions just to buy them off. And Kinder Morgan couldn't believe it. They took the cash and said, yeah, goodbye, Canada. And the pipeline, the Liberals took over the pipeline, and the final cost was well over $20 billion. Only a government could, quintuple costs on a project that was previously being done by a private company with no government money. They were using their own money. Anyways, that pipeline is actually working now, though not at full capacity. But get this, I'm reading from the story now. One exception is oil. Since the expanded Trans Mountain Pipeline began operating in May 2024, the share of Canadian crude going to non-U.S. markets has soared, hitting 7.9% in July, up from an average of just 2.7% in 2023. Got it. So it's actually the only thing that's working. Okay, let's sum up. Unemployment is up. People dropping out of the job market, just giving up. Even a kooky left-wing premier is calling for the end of the foreign workers program. America is laughing at Mark Carney, and frankly, so is the rest of the world. And to think Carney sold himself in Canada as a businessman who knows how things work. Really? No sign of that yet. But you know who is even worse at their jobs than the Liberal government? The regime media, whose main job is to fluff up Carney and his disasters. Yeah, we've been in a recession for years, but the media won't tell you that, will they? They'll just call you racist for complaining.